Hi, I'm Car Dad. Today I'm going to show you how to change a tire. It's good to know how to change your tire. It's a repair that can be done in 15 to 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. A little bit of dad advice here. It's a really good idea to try this at home in a driveway before you have to do it in an emergency. And I know that you're probably not going to do it, but another word of advice is read your manual now. Read your manual now and find out where all of the tools and your spare tire are before the next time you get in your car, because you're never going to know when you're going to have to change your tire. If you do it once in your driveway, when the situation arises, you'll know what to do. It'll be a lot faster. It's a good exercise. After buying a car, it's a good idea to check the manual on how to change the tire. And if it's a used car, it's especially wise to check the manual and make sure all of the tools that are supplied with the car for changing the tire actually came with the car. That's not always the case. If not, the first thing you should buy your buddy are the tools needed to change the tire. So that could be the first gift you get him or her. And if you really want to equip your buddy, I would add a poncho, a rain poncho, a good pair of gloves, and some wheel chocks. And store these in your trunk with the included items for the tire change. Some older cars, especially Japanese cars, used to supply the wheel chuck in the tire changing kit. Of note here is some newer cars don't include anything for changing a tire. These are cars that probably came with run flat tires, so just be aware your car may not have everything necessary to change a tire. Again, if the car is new to you, look in the manual, look in the trunk, see if all of those bits are included. If not, having Fix-A-Flat, which is a sealant in a can, is your next best choice. So here we go. If you think you have a flat tire, find a safe place. If you're on the interstate, do not think about changing your tire in the emergency lane. Pull off the road and drive very slowly to an exit or a safe spot. Changing a tire on the side of the road can be very dangerous, and a parking lot or in a convenience store parking lot are the best places to change a tire in an emergency. Yes, you may do damage to your wheel, probably not, but it is much better to replace a wheel than risk injury on the side of the road. Other optimal places to change a tire is a straight stretch, never on a curve. You want to make sure that if a car is coming, they see you. Put your emergency flashers on. And remember to use your manual as a guide. Once you're in a safe place, put your emergency brake on. And what I suggest doing is check to make sure A, your spare tire is functional and has air in it, and B, get your lug wrench out. I'll show you in a minute how that works. And make sure you can loosen the lugs on the tire that you need to replace. A lot of tire shops use machines to tighten the lug nuts onto your wheel, and it can be very difficult to remove those lug nuts. And if you can't do it, you can't do it, and at that point you should probably call your dad or a wrecking service or a tire repair shop or someone who can help you. In the Scion, everything is stored under the package tray, which is typical of a lot of cars. It'll either be in the package tray or the trunk. Here's the spare tire. It's definitely a temporary tire. Here's the jack handle, and here is the lug wrench. Getting the spare tire out, I was reminded that the jack is actually under the front seat. Now, why they did that, I have no idea, but clearly car designers don't put a lot of thought into what's going through someone's mind when they're on the side of the road trying to change a tire. Anyway, use your manual, it'll tell you where everything's at. After you've identified what tire is the problem, you want to put your wheel chocks or wedges on the tire that is opposite the problem tire. So for example, we're going to change the passenger rear tire. You would want to chock or wedge the driver's front tire. If you're repairing your rear tire, put it on the front of the front tire, and if you can, and you have another one, put it on the back side just in case. And you can use anything from a piece of concrete, piece of wood, just something that will prevent your wheel from moving. It's at this point that if you have hubcaps, you need to remove them. To remove your hubcaps, most lug wrenches have a tip like this, looks like a pry bar. And what you'll do is get in on the edge of your wheel cover and pry it off. Pretty straightforward. In this case, clearly I don't have a wheel cover, so we can go ahead and loosen the lug nuts. You want to begin to loosen the lug nuts before you raise your car. That way the tire is not turning while you're trying to break the lug nuts free. Remember to loosen a bolt, turn it counterclockwise. And it usually takes a decent amount of strength or weight. You only need to loosen it about a quarter of the way. If you're having trouble with force, you can always use all of your weight. So the way this jack works is you have the jack and the jack handle. It's typical of a lot of other jacks. You merely put them together, rotate to either raise or lower. They're all pretty awkward to use, but clearly they're probably the cheapest jacks the car designers could specify. Here's the rear locator for the jack placement. It's between these two notches. That's the rear. On the front, under all that grime, you can see the two notches here and here that locate where to put your jack. This Toyota Corolla uses the same way of indicating where to place your jack. The jack is in its position, and we just start raising the car. So at this point, the tire is just off the ground. That's all you need. Don't ever put any part of your body under the car at this point. This is a pretty prone position. It is super important not to get underneath the car when it's on the jack. Now we can go ahead and remove the nuts and remove the tire. Again, at this point, you don't need to crank on the nuts. You just sort of want to get them kind of tight, because you're going to do the final tightening once you've lowered the car.
And then you do your final tightening of your lug nuts. You want to give it a good tightening. Doesn't really matter at this point, the pattern for the tightening. Just get them good and tight.
It's a good idea at this point to make sure that your spare tire isn't flat, as well as it's time to put everything back in the trunk or hatch. Now, I've seen people not replace this threaded handle when they're putting the spare back, and that is really unsafe. In an accident, your spare tire will become a projectile. Word to the wise, always put this back in place when you're replacing your spare. And don't forget to remove the chocks. Once you replace the tire with the spare, you need to take it to a tire shop and get it repaired or replaced. Those temporary spares are not meant to be driven very far or very fast. Happy motoring!